Coming up on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy.
I don't think either of us would dispute AJ Styles as a WWE Hall of Famer.
No doubt. His 10-year WWE career was absolutely Hall of Fame worthy.
How do you feel about the idea of Chris Benoit in the Hall of Fame?
I don't think there's anything that could justify celebrating that or trying to make him seem special or rewarding him after that act.
Words are about to be spoken on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, brought to you by the podcast Seat and Wrestling According to Alba Networks. I'm John Alba. That's the broken one, the woken one, the spoken one himself. Deleting you every single year since he went broken in 2015. Mr. Matt Hardy. What's up, my man? How are we?
2016, technically.
Well, let's see. 2015, you have the EC3 match. Well, yeah, okay. 2016 is when you fall and got it.
Evie,
okay.
You have to go out.
Oh,
Evie,
goodness.
go out, please.
We're off the rails already. These kids, they're breaking the show. Look at that.
Yeah. The show is broken because of a gothic baby.
These kids, they everywhere. What's up, man? How are we?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Sometimes she says, I want to be broken gothic baby. Can I do that? Can I be broken gothic baby? And she'll put on the old robe that Maxwell used to wear back in the day.
There you go. That's fun.
Which is so funny, yeah.
She's probably jealous that he got more TV time than she did.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. She still swears up and down. She says, I'm a bigger star, though. I'm the biggest star of the kids.
Yeah, well. Hey, we got a lot going on here because we're big stars. I got my Kowloon little tiki glass here because we love making the towns here on the Extreme Life. Hopefully we'll be coming to your neck of the woods real soon, bringing the Hardy Party around wherever you may find us. But I'm going to tell you a different place that you can find us right now, folks, okay? Because this is very important. In addition to the show dropping on the Matt Hardy Brand YouTube channel, as it always does, and wherever you get your podcasts, we have opened up a new clips channel that we want you to check out. And that is just search Hardy Boys Clips on YouTube. That's all you got to look for, and you're going to find it. And it's going to feature clips from not just this podcast, but archival clips from throughout the Hardy Boys' personal lives and their careers and over the years, dating back 15, 20 years and through the podcast today. Pretty cool stuff, and I'm excited to introduce more people to some of these great stories and moments that we've been able to have over the last few years.
Yeah, for sure. I am very excited that we ended up supplementing our main page, which is the Matt Hardy Brand YouTube channel, which you definitely need to make sure to subscribe there so that you get the feed every single Friday whenever it drops. But this is very cool. We're doing Hardy Boys clips. We're going to see a lot of personal content from myself and Brother Nero, Jeff Hardy, maybe even me and the Gothic Baby, me and the kids, me and Rebby, Jeff stuff on his own, a little bit of everything, but it's going to be really cool because not all of it is going to be Extreme Life of Matt Hardy podcast. It is also going to be a lot of moments from our personal lives.
Yeah, and the beauty is because we have more than 200 episodes of this podcast, you're going to see clips from the show that you may have forgotten about that are going to be uploaded through there. And for example, we popped up the first time that you told the Vince McMahon Eat People story, which was way back 4 years ago, and people were able to rediscover that this week, which was fun. It was crazy just seeing how different, man, you've trimmed up, you got rid of the beard. You're looking better than ever.
Back today because I haven't shaved in 2 days.
Yeah, that's
all it takes, man. You know, thrown that mad fact into existence a while back. It gets annoying shaving.
That's fair.
So, in full transparency, today, my wife and Maxwell, they were out in California. They had this whirlwind of a weekend, real crazy. They went to Ghost, they went to Disney. She had an appearance. They had all kinds of stuff going on, and they did a big Pokemon day. But they're both a little run down and sick and under the weather. So I'm being Mr. Mom in the home for the last 24 hours as well. So it is what it is.
Okay, well, you can support Matt Hardy and support all of us by giving that YouTube page a subscribe, hit the like on all the videos, comment, tell your friends about it. Make sure the Hardy Boys are on your feed every single day because we're dropping content literally every single day. So please be on the daily. Be on the lookout for that if you can, my friends.
For sure.
So we've got some interesting stuff to talk about this week on the heels of some big happenings on the road to WrestleMania. And I do want to give you an opportunity, real quick, to put a little bow tie on last week's episode about Dave Meltzer. There were a good amount of comments. I feel like a lot of people had some thoughts on this one. Anything else you want to say on this front?
Yeah, I think this is it was a really intriguing topic. I enjoyed discussing it because Dave is a very polarizing figure in pro wrestling. You know, a lot of people, when you hear that term dirt sheet, I feel like the first name that comes to mind is Dave Meltzer, right? He's kind of like the OG. He is the great grandfather of internet journalists when it comes to that, especially like newsletters and whatnot. It was really interesting. There was something that was so funny. There was a guy who was from Puerto Rico, a Boricua, and, I know you responded to one of his comments too, where he'd actually commented on something saying, "Oh, this," and I watched that, and then I turned it off and I was like, "Oh, is he mad? Do you think like we were trashing Dave?" But it's funny. I think the reason he I don't think he was a fan of Dave, and he was almost like we went too easy on him is what it kind of felt like. Did you see that? Did you
I
read that?
I did see that, and then he had mentioned that he only listened to half the show. So if you're only reading chapters 1, 6, and 13 of a book, you're not going to get the whole story. You know, you
Yeah,
gotta.
no,
It's
no
not.
doubt. You gotta listen from A to Z, as she would say, "From A to Z, baby. A to Z, baba."
So yeah, because I thought we were very fair to Dave. I thought there were some things that we took some heat off him for, and then I think there were some things that we were properly critical of. And yeah,
Sure.
I mean, I think we're always pretty fair here when all is said and done. So I don't have no regrets, as the kids say.
Right. No regrets. And I mean, I think that's one thing that is important whenever you delve into topics like that are polarizing, that have a lot of discord around them. I feel like you have to like deep dive into them, but you have to look at it from both sides too. Like you can't just because your personal beliefs are one-sided into some issue, you can't you have to look at the facts all the way across the board. Now, I thought we were very fair with doing that with Dave.
Yeah, I felt we were very fair too. So check that episode out in the archives if you haven't yet. Dave Meltzer, hero or villain. You can find that at extremehardy.com and on the Matt Hardy brand YouTube page as well, of course. And anywhere you get your podcasts, just look up The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. So we have Elimination Chamber this weekend, my friend, which means we're like high gear road to WrestleMania. Still not a lot of stuff really mapped out aside from our two matches that we know, which are CM Punk and Roman Reigns, and then
Right.
Liv Morgan and Stephanie Vaquer for the World Women's title on the Raw side. That match is now official. You like what you've seen from Stephanie Vaquer so far? She's,
I d
almost a year in on
I
the main roster.
yeah, I have enjoyed her work for sure. I remember when it's so funny, today is a year ago since myself and Jeff made our official, NXT debut. I just saw that. Like, that's how I end up seeing those things. I don't keep track of anything, but they'll just pop up on my feed, and I go, "Oh, I think I have a video of this," or whatever, and I didn't have a video of that, and I just threw together a little something real quick of a couple of videos they had posted WWE, and I remember when we were at NXT and meeting Stephanie for the first time, she real cool, real friendly, wanted like, "Hey, can I take a picture with you guys?" And you could tell that she'd watched us when she was growing up, which is so cool. But yeah, I like her work. I dig the persona she carries, and I think she's very, very talented in the ring. And I think she was a great addition to the WWE roster, the WWE females roster, and I think she's going to play a pivotal role for years to come.
You think she and Liv is a big money match for Mania?
I think because there's no like underlying personal issue or story with them. I think it can be good, especially if they make it into something, and they have time to do that. So it's important that we kind of make it personal between those two.
Yeah.
I like how it's kicked off thus far. So hopefully they can continue to build on that.
Yeah, they've been trying to add some personal dissension between them the past couple weeks, so they'll get there. I mean, here's the
Yes.
reality, right? Like, Liv is a big star, and I think she's hasn't even reached her potential yet. I think Liv is going to be someone who's going to be a major,
Agreed.
major player for years to come, and potentially even a crossover star afterwards. Do you see it in Liv Morgan?
I do, yeah, no, I remember we were back, I think, when she was really first starting to kinda come into her own, from 2017 and 2020, and, she always worked so hard, she was always so willing to take feedback and criticism, and she really wanted to improve herself and do better. It comes a long ways from a girl who was a Hooter waitress or whatever what she did. I mean, she just loved pro wrestling. She grew up watching pro wrestling, and it's cool that she got into it and she's taking it so serious, and she really works hard to absorb everything she gets like a sponge. She really is a crazy to say, but she truly is a student of the game.
There you go. Well, she will have a big WrestleMania match here against Stephanie Vicaire. And with the Elimination Chamber coming up this week, we have classic four-match WWE card here. We got two Elimination Chamber matches. Tiffany Stratton, Rhea Ripley, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Kiana James, and Raquel Rodriguez. Winner of that will go on to face Jade Cargill at WrestleMania for the WWE Women's Championship. Tiffany and Jade had their little program. Jade won it from her. Rhea
Yeah.
Ripley, perennial star. Alexa Bliss, someone trying to maybe get back in the singles game. Asuka, always
Mhm.
someone you got to think about. Kiana James, relatively recently called up. Raquel has come a long way. Who do you see walking away as the number one contender for WrestleMania?
Who I would like to see is Rhea Ripley. I would like to see a Jade Cargill, Rhea Ripley issue going in WrestleMania.
What do you like about that match?
I just think they both have very unique body types, both big, both muscular, but both still very feminine. They both still uh, very attractive, right? And I just think at the end of the day, Rhea is still one of the absolute top stars on all levels in WWE. I just think that would feel like a big match, especially if they build it the right way.
I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world to get Rhea off the Raw side, get her over to SmackDown. She and Jade could probably have a pretty interesting match for WrestleMania. But I got to tell you, man, I've been impressed with Raquel Rodriguez and her growth over the last few years. And if they wanted to
Right.
pull a real surprise, Raquel, you talk about like
I
stature. Raquel is a hoss, and she and Jade Cargill. You don't see a match like that too often in the women's division, and I think that could be pretty intriguing if they wanted to pull the trigger on something like that.
Right. I mean, once again, she has come a long ways too, and just her association and continuing to grow with Judgment Day has been very, very good for
Yeah.
her.
I'm gonna go with Rhea Ripley as well, though. I think Rhea's the big star, and you have her in the match with Jade at WrestleMania. They can go out there and try to have one of Jade's real strong matches. The one
Right.
thing that I will just say about Jade, yeah, she's been champion for a hot second here, and it really feels like she barely ever wrestles on TV. And now that we don't have house shows going on in WWE all that often, she didn't work a ton of quality matches in AEW.
Sure.
How do you feel about that? Because she's still relatively new to the game when all is said and done.
I mean, I I would say first and foremost, that's why they kept her off TV so long. They were trying to do everything they can to train her, to supplement her abilities, and especially kind of get her programmed into like what the WWE style is, the WWE formula. So I do like the work she's been doing, and I think with her in a lot of ways, like less is more. If she takes her time, she you really exaggerate her look, her build, her muscles, her strength, and you don't ask her to do too much, you know what I mean? But you like really strategically put everything together and you make the most out of whatever she's doing.
So she has had, including live events, she has had 6 matches in 2026, which is not all that much. She's had 143 matches in her career, so that averages
Wow.
around to 28 matches per year, which for someone who's relatively fresh to the industry, it's not a ton of reps, but like you
Right.
said, she looks like a freaking movie star, so how do you not capitalize on it, right?
I mean, she doesn't look real. You know what I mean? She doesn't look real. She looks like someone done with CGI. Um, she looks like she's AI out there wrestling.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, no, I mean, good on her too. And when you talk about that, that is one reason I do miss the house shows, especially for people in her position. It would be great for her to be able to go out and work at a house show where she's not nervous about being on TV. If people see it, the whole world sees it. The pressure of that live television is just so intimidating.
Mhm.
House shows were just a great place to go out and kind of learn who you are and practice things and try different things, and that was something that was it was something that was very beneficial to a lot of people who needed to continue to learn.
Once upon a time, you're wrestling 143 plus matches in a year, let alone
Oh,
over the course of
no
5
no d
years.
no doubt. I mean, and I say that in and I've said that in the past. When we started, it was 10 days on, 4 days off. So, I mean, you do the math with that, and that'll kinda let you know how many times we were wrestling in the beginning.
And maybe that was unhealthy. Maybe that was too many times, but there's
It that was definitely too many times,
right. So
especially with the way the style was evolving and changing, and guys are working harder and taking a lot more bumps, and especially because Jeff and I, we were young and invincible. Nothing hurt then, but everything hurts now. Yeah, it was a lot, no doubt.
so on the men's side, we have the undisputed WWE Championship Elimination Chamber match. Randy Orton versus LA Knight versus Cody Rhodes versus Javon Evans versus Trick Williams versus Jay Uso. Now, Bronson Reed was reportedly going to win his qualifying match on Raw, but he tore his biceps, and Jay ended up taking his place instead. So we got, by my count, one, two, three, four, five baby faces and one heel in this chamber match. That's an interesting dynamic, isn't it?
It is. It's an interesting dynamic, no doubt. I guess they're gonna go about it the way, they're gonna sell it real big that, there's not a lot of guys that have beefs or guys that are programmed against one another in there, but just everyone is going to be fighting to the death for a title shot because it's a prestigious title.
Let's break this one down a little bit. Javon and Trick being in it. What do you make of that?
I The fact that Javon is in it elevates him right from the jump. Just the fact that you can say, "Hey, I've been in a main event of an elimination chamber with all these guys," that elevates him, and he's gonna be able to do some cool, fun stuff in there that it's gonna blow people's minds. He doesn't need to win in any capacity. He just needs to get out there and perform, and it will elevate him.
How about Trick?
Uh, Trick as well. I mean, Trick just being in that environment will definitely elevate him as well, and there'll be some false finishes, I would guess, where they might think lead you to think he's going to win. I still don't see him winning. I just think for both of those guys, it is to elevate them more than anything else.
Curious if it sets up their WrestleMania matches in the process, if either of them do have WrestleMania matches. Who walks away the winner here?
Just looking at this roster and thinking Mania, it's hard not to select Randy Orton in this deal.
Really?
And
Okay.
yeah, I kinda see Randy Orton winning this thing, but then once again, this Cody thing's happening, and I you know, I don't know, maybe when it's all said and done, it's a multiple man match, right? Could you see that?
Well, I was gonna say, so you think there's a possibility that it's Randy and Drew at Mania?
Yes, but I could see Cody being in there as well.
I think Cody's winning this match, but there's just been too much interaction throughout the past couple months with Jacob Fatu, and now that Randy's kind of needled his way into it, I could very easily see this becoming a four-way in some capacity, whether it's by vehicle of this match or something that follows after. But my only problem with that is this is supposed to be like a high stakes qualifying match, right? You got to survive the steel, you
So
got to survive all these other guys, and you punch your ticket only to have it convoluted and watered down by adding other guys who didn't have to qualify the same way you had to qualify. I feel like that kind of undermines the stipulation a little bit.
once again, it all depends on how they get there, I think, and I can see a reason to try and make this match different than a one-on-one, Roman and Punk. So I could see it being a multiple man. Honestly, I would almost guess, if I had to guess, it would lead into a three-way. Jacob Fatu was very interesting as well, as you said. and it would be good because it would elevate him if he was in that WrestleMania main event. As long as they do it in a way that makes sense and has some sort of payoff, I don't mind it. I don't mind if we kind of bend the stakes a little bit. Once again, it's
Okay.
entertainment. We control that.
I'm just not super crazy about seeing Cody and Drew one-on-one again. I mean, they already had a 3 stages of hell match.
Yeah, yeah, well, yes, because they have wrestled quite a bit. They have quite a past
Yeah.
already.
Yeah,
So
so
I
I'm
think something has to be added to it. That's why I'm going with Randy.
brutal break for Bronson Reed, huh?
Yeah, the vision has been snake bitten, no doubt about it. Maybe karma came a calling after they had Seth fake the injury or whatever, because then he really gets hurt. He legitimately gets hurt. And then you have Braun Breaker gets hurt. And then you have now Bronson Reed gets hurt.
I have a gut feeling on what might happen there, what they might try to do, by the way. It was pretty spontaneous that your boy Ethan Page lost the North American Championship on NXT this week.
Yeah.
Think maybe Ethan Page could begin a call up soon and paired with some of those guys. Think that could be
I
a
I
route?
I'm not gonna lie. I certainly hope so. He is ready. He is deserving. He has been killing it at NXT. He is far surpassed, I think, what a lot of people expected him to be, right? And he has done so well. And he's a smart worker. He's a great entertainer. He's a great talker. So yeah, I would love to see Ethan end up at the main roster.
If you know ball, you know Ethan Page can go, and he's a guy. So I hope he becomes a player on that main roster, and we'll see what comes of that. Last one I got for you before we get into our main topic here. Brock Lesnar says he's going to be doing an open challenge ahead of WrestleMania for WrestleMania. Who answers that open challenge?
I would hope Obafemi. It's wishful thinking. That's who I'd hope for.
Why is it wishful thinking?
It's not. I mean, he is the guy. I mean, him being in that spot against Brock would greatly elevate him. It would be a huge deal for his career. It would establish him as a legit badass and someone who could become a legitimate ticket seller
The
right off the jump.
I agree, and I would like to see him answer the open challenge before WrestleMania so we can get some story told. And it's not just
Sure.
who's
Yep.
going to show up at WrestleMania to face Brock. I'd like
Right.
to see some actual story. I'd like to see Obafemi kind of scare Brock Lesnar a little bit. I think that'd be a fun story to tell and a different dynamic of Brock, too.
Yeah. That would be, man. The only the only other person I think they might just do put in that spot anyway, if it's not Obi, maybe it's Danhausen.
Danhausen and Brock Lesnar, huh? You think Danhausen's in the box?
I don't know. I've seen that's been going around, which is just funny. I thought that would fit it. That was a good little spot for the Danhausen joke there.
Who's in the box, man?
What's in the box? What's in the box? Maybe it is Danhausen. I don't know. There's a lot of things that make me think Danhausen isn't in the box because I don't know if they would perceive him as being that level of a star to put him in that for the reveal or whatever. I feel like they might want to build him from bottom up, but who knows, man?
If you were going to do it anywhere with Danhausen, feels like Chicago would be the place to do it. You got
No,
CM
no
Punk
doubt.
territory. They're going to be there. So I guess we
And I
will.
mean, Punk would be a huge advocate for him. He would have endorsed him, no doubt. It's one
Guess
of his
we
boys.
will find out what ends up happening with that, Matt, because the road is here and we are almost at the climax of the road, including Hall of Fame season, which we found out some more details about this week. And that is what we're going to be talking about on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. But before we can, I got to ask, please hit us with that Matt fact.
Matt fact, Matt is enamored with fortune cookies.
Okay. And why is that?
The fact that they are fortune cookies really give you a fortune and predict the future. I find them so interesting. I love it. We did that a little while back. We'd been out at a restaurant, and we'd grabbed some sushi and a couple other items, a little hibachi there too, and then got fortune cookies at the end of the night, and it's funny, mine ended up being the best one, and then Rebby had a bad one, and she was mad.
I'm sure that went over well.
So I just I think they're fun. I think fortune cookies are a fun thing. I don't take them serious, but I think they're fun, which always and my kids do too. They wanna know. I mean, the older kids can read, but, even, like, Evie will say, like, "What does mine say? What does mine say? Is it good or is it bad? Is it bad?"
So
You know,
you like trying to peek into the future?
it's just it's fun. It's just, I am enamored by it just to kinda see what you're gonna get. Sometimes, you get a little sometimes, me, I am overly optimistic in all ways, so sometimes when you get one of those and I got one that was real good, I was like, "I don't know, maybe hold up, Revy, maybe I'm doing things right, maybe I can am on the right path, hey,
That's fair.
don't get mad at me, brother.
That's fair. That's fair. Look.
Come at me, back away, come at me, back away."
Okay. Well,
Oh,
look.
speaking of that, that's a Ric Flair thing, and it's Ric Flair's birthday. I just realized that
Oh,
today, actually.
okay. Okay. You're saying come at me to her. Well, you can also say come at me to anyone with Blue Chew because
Oh
with
my
Blue Chew
god.
Gold, you can shout that anywhere within the confines of your own living room. Fellas,
Come at me and I'll come at you hard.
you already know what time it is. It's time to level up, and Blue Chew just dropped something crazy. I'm talking next level championship belt, gold plated energy. Blue Chew Gold is the newest innovation from the number one chewable ED brand. This ain't your grandpa's little blue pill. This is the 4-in-1 beast that's setting the gold standard for performance. We're talking 2 ingredients for blood flow to keep that rocket pumping mixed with apomorphine and oxytocin to turn up the arousal and connection in your brain and body. Blue Chew Gold dissolves under your tongue and it works in as little as 15 minutes. That means that you can get in on it quicker and stay in the game longer. It is elevation without hesitation. And if we're talking fortunes, I'm looking into the future, and your future is looking gold with Blue Chew, Matt Hardy.
Yes, get on that expedition of gold. And I'm telling you, everyone knows Blue Chew has always been a great secret, especially if you've never heard about it and you try one time. But there is nothing like going on this expedition of gold, Blue Chew. And I promise you, you will perform at a level you never thought you could.
Listen, Team USA men's and women's hockey took home the gold in the Olympics. You're going to feel like an Olympian when you are rocking Blue Chew Gold. So, we got a special deal for our listeners here. Get 10% off your first month of Blue Chew Gold with code HARDY, HARDY, emphasis on HARD. That's promo code HARDY. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the extreme life of Matt Hardy. Okay, man. Well, AJ Styles had his little farewell on Monday Night Raw, and you got to see a bunch of cameos from everyone. The Good Brothers were there, Abyss was there, Kaz was there. That was pretty cool. What'd you think of the little farewell for AJ?
It was very cool. It was very cool to have Abyss, the character, on WWE programming, right? Live and in living color. Very, very cool. Very happy for Frankie Kazarian to get to pop up there too. And just seeing the Good Brothers back for everyone to kind of wish AJ well and kind of applaud him and congratulate him on a just absolutely phenomenal career.
Does this change your mind on AJ's future? We spoke a few weeks ago about what we felt was going to happen with AJ, and maybe he would have a TNA match, maybe he'd explore AEW. With this whole retirement ceremony on Raw, does that change your mind at all?
I don't think he's gonna explore AEW. I really don't think that. It may make me think a little less that he is not gonna wrestle at all, but I think he will appear on some TNA programming at some point. Maybe it's not wrestling, but, I do the fact that he said, like, "Hey, I didn't take my gloves off there because I wanna take my gloves off home," and he said, "I'm gonna take them off here," and he did that. It seemed, like there was a lot of a lot of a lot of finish in it, so to say, from a wrestling
Finality.
standpoint. Yes, a lot of finality in it.
Okay.
But when it's all said and done too, I mean, never say never, man. Who knows? But AJ is also a dude. I feel like if he is really saying something and promising the world something, he's one of those guys that tries to be as true to his fan base as he possibly can.
Carl Anderson said on the Talking Shop podcast that AJ told him that he's been dealing with a lot of neck pain lately, and that was one of
Yeah,
his main motivators for
right,
hanging it up, which, if there's truth to that, that certainly makes me feel like maybe this truly is it for him.
right. Yeah,
But
I did see that too. Dealing with some neck injuries that happens when you're 48.
yeah, you don't
Ask,
wanna.
ask brother Nero.
That's true, and you don't wanna push it past the point of it being unbearable, uncomfortable, and
Sure.
it was a great segment. It was really, really well done, and they gave you the false finish at the end, and then all of a sudden, The Undertaker comes up and tells AJ he's gonna be the second inductee to the class of 2026 WWE Hall of Fame. What do you think about AJ getting the call this quickly here?
Uh, that was that was cool. Good for him. He is someone who is absolutely deserving of it. He has no doubt had a Hall of Fame career, whether it is TNA, WWE, wherever it may be. Very happy it happened for him. And the fact that Undertaker, who he had his last WrestleMania match with AJ Styles, was the one that came out and kind of let him know he was going to be going into the WWE Hall of Fame is amazing. Quite a far reach from the original Undertaker that came out with the makeup on his face and very stoic and cold with Paul Bear.
Yeah, how do you feel about this corporate Undertaker, if you will? He's like executive Mark
The
Calloway,
ambassador
the
Undertaker, yeah.
ambassador, Mark Calloway. How do you feel about that? Because that is so different from anything he ever publicly appeared as.
There was a lot of times I know whenever he did the American Badass, he was just so happy that he could speak and talk because he said, like, "Whenever I was Undertaker, I wanted to talk and, like, be able to say cool things and, like, be more myself, but I just, like, that my character did not lend to that, so I couldn't do that." So, I'm sure he's enjoying it. I'm sure he's glad he's retired, he's no longer an active wrestler, and he can just be him. I know that is something he always had this desire to do, so I'm glad he's getting to do it now. I know I'm sure he enjoys it, and from what I've heard from my conversations with Jeremy Borash, doing AAA stuff together, they work together quite a bit there at AAA, like, he really enjoys this, and he likes teaching and mentoring people and trying to make the quality of the show better.
Jeremy Borash also showing up on Monday
Yeah.
Night
Yeah,
Raw,
yeah, yeah.
which is kind of cool to see him get some face time. I thought they did a really good job with that segment. But AJ, the second inductee, Stephanie McMahon, as we discussed a few months back, will also be in it. Do you think they're going to add Cena into this class, or is that a little too much?
Ooh, Cena seems like a little too much for this year. I mean, I guess in theory they could, but I almost think they would hold Cena off till next year, maybe.
Next year in Saudi Arabia? Saudi Arabia Cena?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, the Saudi Arabia Hall of Fame is certainly going to be interesting, no doubt about it. Yeah, what do you think? Do you think they're going to add Cena this
I
year?
hate to break it to you. If you guys go in next year in Saudi, I ain't gonna be there. Sorry, but yeah, I will not be hopping on my flight over to Riyadh. However, I wish you all the best. Do I think
Sure.
Cena's gonna go in this year? I think I think since there's been this narrative about WrestleMania ticket sales being a little slow, even though they're still gonna have a nice number in for the stadium, but they've been a little slow. I think they might try to load this puppy up for that weekend. They're not doing the NXT Stand and Deliver show in conjunction with WrestleMania this year. I would not be surprised if they try to pitch this as their biggest Hall of Fame class ever in terms of stacked names. And if you get Cena, Stephanie, AJ Styles, who knows who else,
Yeah, that's fair. Makes sense. No doubt.
Because I've just got a feeling they want to. You got to get people to come back to Vegas after going last year, right?
Sure.
So
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how do you do that? You go bigger. you go all in, if you will, and we'll find out what they end up doing. However, we just threw that out there of who else goes in, and it got me thinking here. I don't think either of us would dispute AJ Styles as a WWE Hall of Famer, even with his 10-year WWE career. I think he certainly was Hall of Fame worthy. Would you agree with that?
No doubt. His 10-year WWE career was absolutely Hall of Fame worthy,
Right.
and obviously, his TNA stuff lends itself to adding credibility to his Hall of Fame induction.
So it got me thinking, who's not in the WWE Hall of Fame that should be? And that's a conversation I feel like fans have every year. But what about
Right.
from one of the wrestlers? What do they think? And I'll ask you this to start this conversation. How do wrestlers, and I know you can't speak for everyone, but how do wrestlers generally feel about the WWE Hall of Fame concept?
I feel like the majority of wrestlers, especially speaking as people who have worked in WWE, they make the Hall of Fame out to be very prestigious, and it's a very, very nice honor, and it's kinda like a lifetime achievement award more than anything else, and I feel like most of the people that are there, they don't even gear their mind to that because they're just actively, constantly in the grind and doing their thing. And they go, "Oh, yeah, sure, one day, that'd be nice." But, they're just kinda worried about the next town and the next date and, their next program and their next big match or whatever else. So I don't think it's anything that people think about actively, on a daily basis or anything like that. But I do think people realize, like, it is a very special honor. And, you look at the iconic list of names that is in the WWE Hall of Fame, and people say, like, "Wow, that would be cool to happen one day." I don't think people, like, live and die over it, but, like, once they have decided to hang up the boots, especially people that are active, once they decide to hang up the boots, I think it is something really go, "Wow, this is really cool," doing the Hall of Fame, and my name's gonna be with all these other, legends and icons and whatever else, and it is, like, a lifetime achievement award that I really have done something special and carved out my own lane and my own niche in this pro wrestling world, and it was Hall of Fame worthy.
The Hall of Fame went away. It started in 1993. Andre the Giant was the first inductee, but then it went away for from 1996 to 2004. So for 8 years, it went away.
Right.
Do you remember when Vince brought it back and maybe any conversations about that?
No, no, I don't, but I just feel like it was part of the ever-growing, continuing to find ways to brand WWE and on different platforms and different markets. How can we still generate the most interest and money and revenue that we possibly can? And, like, this is another outlet. We could do this and bring these stars back, and I felt like it was just another outlet that they could use to try and promote and build WWE.
Because you look at that first class back, it's stacked in
Right.
2004. Big John Studd, Billy Graham, Bobby Heenan, Don Morocco, Greg Valentine, Harley Race, Jesse Ventura, Junkyard Dog, Sergeant Slaughter, Tito Santana, and then Pete Rose as the celebrity inductee. Like that's loaded. And I would
Right.
how did Vince feel about the legends in that sense?
Vince has always been very, very respectful of legends and people that have worked for him. I mean, I'm sure you've heard all these stories about how Vince has taken care of guys who've worked there for a long time, and there's guys that he would bring in, like when we first came up there, like he thought Tony Garea, Rene Goulet, those guys were very faithful. They were very loyal. And, he ended up giving them jobs as producers. And, there were a lot of some of the boys that say, like, yeah, they're not worth a shit at what they do, but, they were just very loyal to Vince, or he wants to like give back to them. And there's guys that he had taken care of greatly, guys who would sacrifice for him. So he did have a heart in that capacity. And the fact that he brings these legends back, I know he is grateful for the sacrifices these people have made to build his company into what it eventually became. And he is very grateful and very respectful of 'em. And I think that was taught to him by his father. I think his father was very adamant, like, "Hey, you gotta, like, respect these guys, like, don't treat them like a piece of shit. Sure, you're a promoter, and, when you're doing business, it's business, if you're gonna pay them X amount of dollars and this, and they don't wanna do it, and they walk, whatever, but, like, treat them as respect because they have sacrificed a lot for you and for our business."
Do you remember any Hall of Fame speeches in particular standing out to you from your time in the company? I'm sure you went to a lot of these ceremonies. Anyone stick
Oh,
with you?
boy. I'm trying to think, who was that did the one that was super rambling, that was about 45 minutes long? It was
It was a
so long.
Hillbilly Jim?
They went way over.
Hillbilly Jim,
Uh, maybe I
$2018.
it doesn't seem like it was him, but it could have been him. There were some. I mean, I remember we would sometimes we get guys would go to the Hall of Fame, right? Like, we got to be there, dress up, and then everybody wants to get ready for like Mania the next day, and everybody wants to get a good night's sleep, whatever. Oh, Jesus Christ! Can you please, like, make sure, like, we trim these speeches and these times, like, don't let anybody go out there and go crazy and continue to go and go and go and go. And I do remember Hillbilly Jim's was really, really long, but for some reason, it seems like there was another one that was very long, and a lot of it was just like there was just, like, just a lot of just words in there. It was like a huge just, word salad throughout the whole while, right? Just people talking, 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 really weren't making a solid point.
So I may be the only media guy on the planet who isn't really a big traditional coffee fan. I'm a little sensitive to caffeine, and I'd always feel really jittery or anxious anytime I actually tried it. So I've been trying to get my mornings together and not perfectly. There's just no way to do that, but maybe with a little less chaos and a little less jittery energy. And the way to do that is with mud water. Their original blend is a coffee alternative made with cacao, chai, turmeric, and functional mushrooms like lion's mane and reishi. You get a warm, focused boost without that wired buzz or the midday crash that usually tags along with a regular cup of coffee. So, whether you're mixing up with their original blend or easing into something gentler than your usual brew, Mudwater makes it ridiculously easy to start the day by feeling good. And now you can grab it at Target and Sprouts nationwide, making better mornings easier than ever. Every single ingredient in Mudwater's products are 100% USDA certified organic, non GMO, gluten free, vegan, and kosher. And there's also zero sugar and no sweeteners added. Each ingredient in Mudwater serves a purpose with organic ingredients for a clean, natural boost. Mudwater's smooth, earthy flavors provide a delicious and a natural source of energy. Their OG blend contains cacao and chai for a hint of caffeine and hot chocolate like flavor, which is right up my alley. Lion's mane is in there for focus. There's so many other natural supplements and nutrients in here that support a healthy immune system. So, are you ready to make the switch to cleaner energy? Well, head to mudwater.com and grab your starter kit today. Right now, our listeners get an exclusive deal up to 43% off your entire order, plus free shipping and a free rechargeable frother when you use code HARDY. That's right, up to 43% off with code HARDY at MUDWTR.com. And after your purchase, they're going to ask you how you found them. Please support the extreme life of Matt Hardy and let them know that we sent you.
That is unfortunately the nature of the beast for a lot of these, I feel like, but nonetheless, they still found ways to incorporate them and honor some people.
Y y
Seeing your peers go in, like people you worked with, what's that feeling like?
It's cool. I remember how happy I was when Adam went in, when he had to retire very quickly. Lita as well. The Dudleys, that was very cool when the Dudleys were there, and we
Yeah.
had that moment at the very end when myself and Jeff came on stage, and Edge and Christian is kinda like the TLC forefathers were up there celebrating. I mean, yeah, it is great, and there's so many people that truly are deserving, and, people that I've, gotten to know over the years, like, Stone Cold Steve Austin or even, Flair, whatever else. It is great to see these guys be honored in that way, just
Mm.
because they've just busted their ass, especially, someone like Ric Flair who, like, he was just on the road nonstop, and I know he loved it, don't get me wrong, he was very happy about it, he loved doing it, he loved that lifestyle, but, I mean, those guys gave their lives to wrestling back in the day.
Yeah. Now, last year we saw Lex Luger go into the Hall of Fame, and Lex was
Yeah.
always a name that people were like, "Why the hell has this guy not gone in?" Right? And maybe it was a relationship with Vince thing. Who knows? But it does leave open the question of who deserves to be in, who's not in. So I'll ask you, in your mind, because a criteria does not exist for this Hall of Fame. It's not like the Baseball Hall of Fame where there's a service time requirement and there's typically a threshold for getting in. There's no committee. There's none of that. It's more or less, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more or less like who's in good favor with the company, who do they want to honor in this particular year? Kind of like you said, Lifetime Achievement Award, right?
Sure.
So in your mind, what makes a WWE Hall of Famer?
I mean, I think you have to have standout qualities for things you did in your career. And maybe that's because you were innovative, you had some sort of amazing character that people couldn't get enough of. You were an incredible, believable worker that people couldn't stop cheering you or booing you because your work was so great. Uh, there has to be some standout quality, I feel like. And also, it's also beneficial if you became a champion multiple times in different areas, which is kind of your current day present award for being a great wrestler at that time. That means if you are that good of a wrestler, then you're rewarded with a title or a championship. Uh, I feel like those qualities of like rising above the middle area, the common wrestler, just there's a lot of guys that wrestle and they see success for a little bit, but like how many people can do it for a number of years? How many people can have incredible longevity? How many people can change the business? How many people have a character that touched millions of people around the world? I mean, those are the qualities are what I think makes a Hall of Fame act worthy.
But isn't it hard because with wrestling, especially, it's not entirely always up to the performer. There have been plenty of great performers who never achieved much in wrestling, or they only reached a certain level because of their booking, or because someone up high had it out for them and they couldn't get past that certain hurdle that they were trying to clear. Like, doesn't that make that different than your other typical Hall of Fame scenario?
No doubt it is different, but I mean, that's also just being able to overcome that in pro wrestling and learning how to make things work in the business and make everybody get along and make people happy and get in their good graces. I mean, that is part of pro wrestling, no doubt about it. And that's some people could even say that's your job to overcome those obstacles if they're thrust in your way.
Sure. Okay. So let's talk about who should be in the Hall of Fame, who currently isn't. Now, there's going to be a lot of active talent that will one day be Hall of Famers, but I want to talk about more so people who have retired or people who have passed
Right.
that deserve their spot in your mind who currently aren't there. Who steps up towards the top of your list in that regard?
I mean, every all the circumstances around the whole incident are extremely terrible and unfortunate. But the first person that pops in my mind is Owen Hart more than anybody else. And I understand why that is what it is. But I mean, he is just an amazing wrestler. He was so great. He was so good. He was a good human. Uh, and just his death was so sad, and I understand why things haven't happened, but I personally took a huge liking to him, and I had a huge level of respect for Owen because I got to work with him, and that's kind of the first person that pops in my mind when we start talking about who should be in the Hall of Fame that isn't.
Do you ever see a path to that happening?
Uh, it's doubtful. It's very doubtful. I mean, who knows? Things could change in the industry, in the business, but uh, as of right now, very doubtful.
I agree with you, especially with AEW's relationship with the Hart family.
Yeah, I mean,
And
and I feel like they're honoring him, which kudos to Tony Khan and AEW because they are honoring Owen Hart in a way that he deserves to be honored. I mean,
absolutely.
that's kind of like his Hall of Fame thing, the way they have the whole Owen Cup and everything else, and the way his wife has been part of AEW and the children, which I love that. I love that for them. I love that Owen is being remembered and his memory is staying alive because of AEW.
Yeah, I feel like Owen would have loved pardon me. I feel like Owen would have loved AEW and that style. I mean, he was so innovative in his own right and what he brought over to the United States. I think he would have been such a great fit for an organization like that. So I think what they do for him with the Owen Cup is outstanding, and it being like an important thing. Like you win the Owen, you've got a world title match at the biggest pay per view. That's their Royal Rumble. You know, that's a pretty big deal when all is said and done.
Right.
So I think that's pretty cool. But I do agree with you. I don't foresee this happening anytime soon. Maybe now that Vince isn't there, there's a small chance, but I would say it's largely pretty doubtful when all is said and done. Who else comes towards the top of your list there?
Someone that stands out as there's two, both trailblazers as females. Elizabeth is one
Mm,
that I feel like is very deserving of. I mean, she was really the first female to kind of break through in pro wrestling, especially with her role with Macho Man. She was a huge part of his act. She was people cared about her, you know, that she had so much sympathy. She had that people were emotionally invested in her. So I think that was a big part of her role, you know, and I think she is someone who could deserve that, especially with, you know, she was a trailblazer as far as like putting a woman in a prominent spot back in the day. Somebody else that goes hand in hand with that statement, someone who was a trailblazer and put women in a prominent spot was China. As she was a breakthrough in so many ways. She had a different look, very unique. She would wrestle men. She was such a trailblazer, and she broke so much ground. And yes, it is cool that she did go in with DX, but she is someone who is also deserving of a solo spot. I know it's, you know, a real tricky, complicated situation, but she is 100% deserving of a solo spot.
how did the locker room feel about China in 1999, 2000, when she's getting all these opportunities that maybe even some men couldn't get?
I, she was pretty well liked. I know there were some people like some of the guys that worked with her, they would be nervous because they would say she would be nervous because she was working with the guys. It was like a little out of her comfort zone. She hadn't worked a ton of matches at that time, right? So they would, you know, sometimes be like, "Oh, well, I hope, you know, Joni's gonna be okay. I hope Joni's gonna be okay." But the one thing that I remember more than anything else is when we were there as extras, and I was sewing our gear, and a couple guys knew that, and I remember Road Dogg and Billy Gunn, they dug us, they liked us because you know, the DX and Clip guys liked us, and they asked if I would make them some headbands, and I did make them headbands, and I'll never forget Chris Candido said like, "Oh, man, would you make us, you know, me and Sonny some headbands," when they were doing the whole Buddy Down this gimmick, and, I did, I sewed them headbands, I made them, and, like, Chris Candido was super appreciative, and I remember Tammy was like, "Oh, yeah, thanks." And then, like, we would see her when we'd come around and, like, you know, she would never acknowledge us again or anything. I mean, you know, that's when she was becoming a big star on her own, doing her thing. But China was the complete opposite. Even before we'd signed contracts, she was so nice to us. She was so happy when we got there. I mean, she was just so sweet and just had such a different mentality than Tammy
Yeah,
Sytch back then.
she had a rough go at life.
It was crazy. It was crazy. It was night and day, the difference between them. And, you know, if you would look at him, you'd think like, "Oh, well, Sonny's this little girl, like, you know, whatever. She's probably, you know, gonna be friendly, whatever." But I mean, she had her motives. She had the stuff she was doing. And, you know, she was just very politically driven and, you know, well, whatever. You know, we know as time continued to go on, she wasn't in the best place in life. And then Joni, on the other hand, was just so nice and so kind and so giving and so
Mhm.
friendly and so motivational to younger guys that were around. And she was super nice to us right from the jump.
Yeah, she had a rough go at life, and I feel bad for how all of
Yeah,
that played out, but
for
I'm
sure.
glad you gave her a shout, and I do think she too deserves her own solo spot despite being in with DX, of course, as you alluded to before. I'm gonna throw And I like the Elizabeth shout too. I think Elizabeth, it's impossible. I mean, the Mega Powers is your favorite storyline of all time, and she's a critical piece of that.
Yes.
You can't have the Mega Powers storyline without Elizabeth.
Yeah.
So that's
I mean, Elizabeth and Macho Man they made me turn on Hulk Hogan.
there
No
you
doubt. I
go.
was like, enough of this. Enough of this bullshit with this guy hitting their finish and them kicking out and hulking up. I've had enough. I've seen enough. If it's a guy I don't like, I'm okay with it. But it's Macho Man, and he's my guy.
Coach Rosie watching live via WrestlingCoinToAlba.com. He says, "How about Sid Vicious,
Well, there you have it.
Psycho Sid?"
Psycho Sid. I mean, he would definitely be worthy of the Hall of Fame intro, and induction. Just because, I mean, he was around. He just still did so much stuff at WCW. He was a former WWE champion. He was very limited in his ring work and what he could do as a performer, obviously. But I mean, he just had like this freakish look, and he was someone that would definitely get noticed if you were in an airport. Vince would always say, like, I want my guy standing out, looking like there's somebody special that are on TV. And no doubt about it, if you were around Sid Vicious, you were gonna know, like, oh, this dude is something special. He stands out in the crowd.
Believable, right? Above all else, and apparently pretty good softball player too. Rumor and innuendo would suggest.
He's not necessarily gonna go in the Hall of Fame for making his bookings.
No. What about from a tag team perspective?
The first name that jumps out to me is Demolition, that's been an ongoing conversation, I think, which is strange. But I mean, Demolition, I feel like when NWA were so hot with the Road Warriors, WWE's answer was Demolition, and they ended up becoming their own thing, and they kind of established their own identity and who they were. And I like those guys back then. I was a big fan of those guys, thought they were great, and I like them even more now that I've met them and got to know both of them some.
Sure. I think Demolition, they get, they got the reputation for being Road Warriors knockoff sometimes, but they were awesome though, and people loved Demolition, a legitimately very popular tag team that
No doubt.
that I think put some butts in seats, truthfully. So that's fair. I was just curious what your perspective was on that as the tag team guy. Let me ask you a question that I don't know. Let's talk some controversial ones because that's always going to be the conversation, right? When it comes to this,
Sure.
I'll throw an interesting one at you first.
All right.
Earl Hebner. Earl is like the WWE referee, right? Like he's
Yes.
maybe the most identifiable WWE referee of all time.
No doubt.
Legendary figure when it came to the Attitude Era, critically important to getting things over with how big these monster stars were. And he has his little issue where, he's selling merchandise and they fire him and he's gone forever. We never see him again on WWE TV. Do you think Earl deserves a spot one day?
He does. Yeah. It would be nice if he was able to get one while he was alive. And I think that's something that could be very possible, now that, Vince isn't around. I think things have changed. I mean, I still think Triple H is of that mentality of like he's willing to play ball. And I mean, Vince would do that too. Even guys that like royally fucked him over, if they could work things out and he wouldn't hold those grudges, he would be willing to have those guys back and whatnot. I mean, dude, you were talking about Hebner. I mean, Earl Hebner too. You go back to that whole thing where they do the Andre the Giant Hulk Hogan thing where they fuck him for the title, which leads to WrestleMania 4 and everything else. I mean, the having two twins are like, oh my God, this guy got plastic surgery to look like the referee, and he was. I mean, that was huge. I mean, they were huge for that whole thing too. A big part of this story. And then he was a big deal throughout the Attitude Era. Obviously, the Montreal Screwjob was a
Well, that's
huge
what I was going to
defining.
say. Like from the Screwjob perspective, he did something that he didn't want to do for Vince.
Sure.
And for him to get fired over that, I don't know, man. I've always felt like Earl got done dirty in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways he did because he did go through that because he felt like he was being a good employee. It's almost you feel like there would have been a little grace involved in him. Like, if he fucked up, maybe, he'd get a slap on the hand and maybe he'd get a reprieve. But that wasn't the case apparently. I don't know how deep that was. I obviously have no idea about what
Right.
the whole story was in that, but it was great seeing it with TNA. I'm glad TNA, trying did him a kindness and they put him in their Hall of Fame, which was cool. And I would like to see him in the WWE Hall of Fame as well.
The most controversial one that everyone always brings up, Chris Benoit.
Sure.
We all know the circumstances of Chris Benoit. In the ring, Hall of Fame career, no doubt about it. But outside the ring, just one of the most damaging historical events that has ever happened to the industry. Took the lives of 2 other people before himself. Tragic in every way. But there are people out there who say you should separate the art from the person. How do you feel about the idea of Chris Benoit in the Hall of Fame?
I mean, he is one of the greatest pro wrestlers, and I say that more than a lot of emphasis on pro wrestler more than a sports entertainer. One of the greatest pro wrestlers of all time, no doubt about it. I worked with him many, many, many times on my own. I've seen him have incredible matches, have incredible moments. Um, it's just you can't celebrate someone who murders his family though.
Right.
That's what it all comes down to when it's all said and done. Regardless of how great of a wrestler and performer he was, I mean, it's just the fact of the matter is he had major issues, mentally unwell, emotionally unwell, however he was altered. What he did was unforgivable, and it's just something that can't be celebrated. And I don't think I don't think there's anything that could justify celebrating that or trying to make him seem special or rewarding him after that act. That act is the end. Like you do that, and then you do have to be erased out of history as much as you have been. I mean, just because you can't morally, there's just no excuse. It's inexplicable. There's no justification. It's pure evil when it's all said and done. And sure, he wasn't in his right mind. He was fucked up in many, many ways. But it can't be justified in any way.
I agree entirely. And I hope that people one day just let that go and get over that. But it comes up every year around Hall of Fame season for some reason, nonetheless. Look, your day's coming with the Hall of Fame. It's going to happen at some point. We always get asked about it with Ask Matt. Any of your peers, aside from like the obvious ones, any of your current peers that you'd like to make the argument for real quick before we wrap up, that you believe deserve to be in the Hall of Fame that maybe some people don't look at right off the bat and are like, oh, that person's an obvious Hall of Famer?
Yeah. I hope old Blue Dot there, Christian, gets a singles bid, when it's all said and done at the end of the day. I guess we'll see.
Why do you
He
think
is
he's
someone.
deserving?
I mean, he's one of the best. He's one of the best to ever do it. Him and Edge, they were great together. Obviously, I'm going to be biased. Without those 2 guys, without the Dudleys, Jeff and I, we don't enter into the tag team ladder match and ultimately the tables match, which leads to all the TLC insanity. And we created a match that will live in pro wrestling history forever, obviously, in tables, ladders, and chairs. Oh my! But he's a big part of that, and just he is one of the guys that I just loved working with night in, night out. And I love the fact that he was able to overcome the odds and he became a world champion in WWE. And he's just great. And he is a worthy competitor, no doubt about it. And the fact that he got a second chance at a career and had that Royal Rumble moment in WWE was very, very cool. And then ended up going to AEW, and he's had some amazing moments at AEW. He is definitely a guy who 150% deserves to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. No doubt about it.
Several of our viewers watching live, Josh Henney saying Nancy Benoit should be in there, Jen agreeing as well that her accomplishments shouldn't be ignored. And she was Like,
Woman, yeah, I mean, that would be nice. I mean, yeah, she is someone that is deserving. I mean, you know, still just a tough situation touching any of that, but, uh, because just, I mean, even her, because it brings up that
you're saying the
conversation.
association.
It makes it hard because that's an event that WWE's gonna wanna steer away from, so it does make it hard. Would she be a good candidate? Yeah, but then once again, you have to talk about, well, where's she at now? How did she die? It's just a tough conversation to have to get into.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we had a chance to go through this. Anything else you wanna add on it?
I'm trying to think about some people too that I mean, I feel like there are some people that, should be coming up soon that I feel like that were in my time. What about, Steven Regal? Is he
So
in there?
that's the crazy thing. William Regal's not in the Hall of Fame yet.
Yeah, that's that's something I feel like will be coming in the future at some point.
I would hope so, especially while his
Yeah,
son's there. It'd be nice if his son was able to induct him,
yeah, for sure, and
you know?
especially, just once again, I think about this a lot too, man. I mean, who knows? All we have is our present moments right now and today. Like, you never know what tomorrow brings. If you can put these guys in there while, they're alive and they're healthy, like, let's do it,
Oh,
man.
look, we're in an era right now. There's a lot of Hall of Famers on the roster right now. There's a
Oh, no
lot
doubt.
of them on there. Obviously, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, off the bat, CM Punk. Uh, I think Drew McIntyre's headed to the Hall of Fame one day. I think Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, The Miz, Kofi Kingston, Woods, Big E, The New Day are going in. I think
Yeah.
Michael Cole's going in the Hall of Fame one day. And that doesn't even include the likes of Charlotte and Bailey and Becky, and Rhea Ripley's building a case for herself. Like, there's a lot of future Hall of Famers on the roster today.
What about the Shield? You think one day we'll see the Shield in the Hall of Fame together?
I think they'll go individually first, and they'll do everything they can to get Moxley back so they can, or at least to agree to do something with the Shield. Because how
Yeah,
can you talk about WWE Hall of Fame without the Shield, right? I mean, they're
sure.
massively influential, and they produce 3 legit stars. And then the other one, of course, aside from Dwayne, which he'll have his day eventually, and Batista, who was supposed to get inducted but pushed it back. Your boy
Right.
Bray, like Bray.
Yeah.
Bray will have his day. I hope it comes
Yep.
sooner than later. And
Yes. Yeah.
and then I don't know about you, but I'd probably put the entire Wyatt family in. Truthfully, I think they were that innovative.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that too. No doubt.
So lots of talent out there right now. And I think
I
right
mean,
now, I think I'm talking to a multi-time Hall of Famer right now, not just WWE, but I think you and Jeff in the TNA Hall of Fame too. That time will come. So the flowers will be spread at some
yes.
point.
Yes. Very good.
They will be spread.
Spread those flowers like one day they'll spread my ashes.
There you go.
I do think too, man. One thing that is when you think about it, like in the 80s and early 90s, it seemed like there were only like a handful of like real stars. Like WWE has done a good job at like making a lot of stars over the last
Yeah.
20 years. There's a lot of people that have had great careers that have been very relevant, that are very popular. And that's one thing that they've always been good at. WWE is very good at making stars and learning how to maneuver them, throughout their career to keep them over and keep them relevant.
Yeah. Even the guys like Dolph Ziggler, I hope they get their day. So
Yeah,
well,
100%.
we will see. And I want to see you supporting our podcast, advertisewithhardy.com. Promote your business to the extreme. Get out in front of thousands of listeners and viewers every single week. That's the extreme life of Matt Hardy on advertisewithhardy.com. And of course, check out the Hardy Boys Clips channel on YouTube. Subscribe right now. Get in on that. Don't miss out on daily Hardy Boys action. Lots of good stuff coming there. We are doing Ask Matt next week, so I'm looking forward to that, my friend. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, man. I love a good Ask Matt, and I'm excited. I'm excited. We have this Hardy Boys Clips coming up. I'm excited about the podcast. It feels like we're kind of getting everything in order. You know what I mean? We're It's 2026 in the Lord's 2026. We're going up and away.
The words have been spoken. We'll see you next time on The Extreme Life of Matt Hard.
Delete!